Hello everyone, and I hope you're doing very well on this Friday afternoon. It's just gone. So this is going to be a bit of a weird one. It was going to be me asking the question, do you prefer in DCS world the F-14B or the F-18? The F-18C in DCS, and it was going to be a vote. The vote is not official in any way. It's not going to affect anything. It's just like all of my videos, it's there to kind of stimulate learning and discussion, and just genuine interest what you guys think, because I really don't have a clue and it's something I'm interested in. But then I had to think about the question, do you prefer the F-18 or the F-14 in DCS? And I'm not really sure that's the question I really wanted to ask, so I had to think about it and decided on the question that I was actually trying to ask. And so I've got a better question now that's more of what I'm trying to get at. And it is, do you prefer the 60s or 70s style of, I think avionics may be the wrong word here, but aviation technology, should we say? Or do you prefer the 80s / the 90s style? So some examples of what I mean. I apologise if I've got any of this wrong. I'm doing it all kind of by feel, but I'm pretty sure it should be about right. So we've got, for instance, an F-14B pilot cockpit here, and we've got a ADS-37 Viggen. Other examples I could have put in would be the F5E or the A4, the free module. Everything in that kind of realm. What I would describe as kind of 60s and 70s frontline tech. And I don't just mean the pretty dials and the gauges and the screens and whatnot. It is that. It's how you interact with the aircraft, but it's also the stuff behind the cockpit, like how does it fly, the fly-by-wire systems, how these aircraft feel to you. And on the 80s and 90s side, I've got the FA-18C and the A-10C. I believe I'm right in saying that. You can say that you see the main difference in terms of appearance is that these 80s and 90s cockpits have much more interactivity, and so they've had to go to things like a digital IFE and the multi-purpose MFDs, where you can get massive amounts of information, access huge amounts of variables. And they would have replaced essentially old kind of weapon switchboards like you would have on the Rio of the F-14. And the reason I asked the original question, do you prefer the F-14 or the F-18, is for my choice, I was going to vote for the F-14, not in its functionality. I don't really care that much about its functionality, what it can actually do. I prefer what it's like to fly, how it makes you feel actually flying the thing. And the reason I would have chosen the F-14 is because I prefer this period of technology. I prefer the steam gauges, the non-multifunction screens. So I guess we're right at the height here with the F-14B. We've got this screen, which, yes, it is multifunction, but it's not multifunction like these guys here. If you fly the F-14B, you'll know what I mean. It's still pretty simple stuff. This guy here, again, technically, it can show two types of TV feed, or it could show you a kind of HUD repeater thing that it shows. But again, it's super simple. It's right at the beginning of the age of multifunction. And the hard, yes, again, technically multifunction, but super simple. So I'd say this is right at the top end of the era that I like. I like the way it feels to drive this. In terms of how it actually feels, moving the joystick and the aircraft responding, and the way I interact to the aircraft systems via all of these things, these screens and these dials and these knobs and whatnot. I like to be in a cockpit where I've got a lot of knobs to turn and buttons to press, as opposed to the kind of multifunctional type situation that we have in the 80s and 90s cockpit. Now, in terms of the actual feel of the aircraft, see these two here, the F-14 and the Viggen and the F-5 and the QE and, stuff I would put in this category here. I feel like I have, although they are just simulations, they're just lots and lots of ones and zeros at the end of the day. They're very well simulated, and I'm not just talking about the heat blur modules. That's not the point of this. It's a whole mix over all of the developers. I feel they've all done about as good a job as each other in terms of simulating what the aircraft should, in theory, fly like. And these guys here, the 60s and 70s type chaps, I feel like I've got pretty much direct control over the control surfaces, a bit like a Spitfire. I pull the stick back, the flight control surface moves, and the aircraft responds to that. And I have pretty much full control. It'll do whatever I want to. If I want to pull up while it goes 700 knots and snap my tails off, then that's it. That's my choice. I get to do that. But more importantly, I get the absolute fine precision of control in these jets. There are stability management systems, presumably computerized. I don't really know. You've got Spark in the AGS. You've got the SAS systems on the F-14, and they are there, and they do a good job in making the aircraft more flyable over the general envelope. But still, I feel like I've got some real, although I actually haven't, but I do feel like I've got cables between, my control stick and the control surfaces. And now we move on to the 80s and 90s, and the reason why I would not have voted for the F-18 in the original question is that from the moment I drove it first, I was very kindly given an upfront copy by ED. Thank you very much. Please, more people do that. Hinted. And it was very impressive at the time, if you go and watch my kind of original videos when I first got it. But I never got on with it, and the reason I never got on with the plane, and the reason I've more or less, I've not stayed away from it, I've flown it equally to everything else, but the reason I've personally never got on with it is because I've never felt like I'm really controlling the aircraft. I felt like I'm telling a computer where I want to go by waggling my stick left and right and up and down, and that computer is accepting some of my input and rejecting some, and then making its decision based on its various parameters, and then moving the flight control surfaces how it thinks they should be moved. And of course, that shows that it is very well simulated. That is obviously what the real electronic flight system would do. I guess maybe you call it fly-by-wire, I don't know, but the background stability system of the Hornet is obviously a highly developed digitized system where indeed you don't have direct control of those control flight surfaces. Everything's processed, and you can tell the computer what to do, and it will do somewhere between what you've asked it to do and what it thinks you should do. And I've always had that detached feeling from the F-18, and because DCS is not a job, it's a hobby, I don't personally want an aircraft that feels like that. So that's why I have gone against this. And as well as that, I don't like the tech. I don't like the 80s, 90s MFD. It's a personal thing. I don't find them overwhelming as such, but I can't really describe my feelings on it, but it's just something, as soon as I've used the first one on the A10C, I saw that's not for me, basically. And kind of a lifestyle thing as well. My cars, I've got two cars, and I've got a 15-year-old Renault Clio, and I have that because it's the technology I like. It's old. It doesn't have MFDs in it like modern Nissans and, I don't know, Peugeots or whatever have. It's just old-fashioned. It's got a few buttons you press, and that's it. It's got no digital readouts anywhere, a few gauges, and that's it. And I've got full direct control over the steering. It's hydraulically driven steering. It's not one of those electronic steering racks they all have nowadays. There's no computation in there. There are a few driving aids, but I've just literally ripped the wiring out for them because I want direct control of everything in that car. And my second car is a 26-year-old Nissan. And again, everything has been removed. The ABS has been removed. I haven't even seen the car in years. It's packed away from my old life, obviously, before I got sick and whatnot. Packed away in a storage thingy somewhere, rotting away pretty much. And the reason I like it is because there's no behind the scenes stuff. There's no MFVs. There's no fly-by-wire telling me what I should do. I've got direct link to all of those if you like, the flight control surfaces on that car, and nothing can tell me what to do. And I've got full feeling. And so that's really come down to, I hadn't really planned this video because I found it really hard to plan. So I've kind of talked my way through it and told you what it's about at the end of the day. And I am in this camp here. And I want to ask, are you guys in this camp here? The authentic feeling of having pretty much direct control of the vehicle, be it car or be it aeroplane, and having some gauges and some information displayed to you, but not a fully computerized version? Or do you prefer the 2019 Nissan with its electronic steering rack and its barrage of aids so that you can't spin the wheels and so that you can't skid off a mountain and so that you're safe and cushioned, and 1,200 airbags and and all the other tech and the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or I don't even know. I'm so old-fashioned nowadays. I don't know. And in terms of DCS, the same thing comes through. Do you like the MFDs and the massive functionality like you'd have on your BMW? You'd be able to turn a knob and change every tweak here and there, and all the extra maintenance and cost that's going to come with this, with the aeroplane and with the car. Do you prefer this, where you're not really telling the car or the aeroplane what to do, but you are just giving a computer orders? I call these type of airplanes, I call them Game Boys. Before I was into airplanes, I was into cars, and I'd call these cars Game Boys. Because again, you're kind of like a kid pressing buttons on a video control game. Ironically, this whole thing is a video game, but you know what I mean. You're kind of operating a computer rather than driving/flying a vehicle. And that's literally what, even in the simulation, that's what it is, isn't it? You're operating a computerized vehicle. So I think by hook or by crook, I've probably gone on much more than I should have, but that's what I do. I've got some free time at the moment, so I can make silly videos like this, and rather than doing more conventional stuff. And I'm asking you the question now, if you're still with me, which is very unlikely. Are you in my camp, or are you in this camp? My prediction is that I am one of a kind, and probably no one in the world is like me. I'm weird, and that's, I don't know, probably why you guys like me, because I am something. I'm not normal. I do weird things. So, is it me on my own on this page here, or is anyone with me, or do you all like your thousands of buttons and millions of options and all that tosh that I'm not interested in? That's about as much as I can go on about it without just constantly repeating myself. So the vote, it will be a little straw poll or whatever I can get set up. It will be if you look in the vid description, it'll be the first link I put there. Let's have a vote. Let's see what you guys think. And again, it's just to simulate discussion, and let's have a discussion about it. Cool. See you later. I'll see you in the comments.